Look up. Hello, gentle viewers, and welcome to another episode of Alistair Reviews It. And today we are reviewing the 6th episode in WandaVision.
Yes. Good morning. Friday morning. We woke up again. So this is our second Friday in a row that we've woken up at 5 a.m. to wake up, watch the episode, record this, and hopefully have this episode out by this evening. Just depends on how the day is going to go. But just quick note, we do have COVID, so we're battling COVID, so we're under house quarantine, house arrest. It's basically house arrest. So if we look a little bit rough, if we start coughing, if we're breathing a little heavier than normal, that's why. So just give us a fucking break. My biggest complaint with the WandaVision episodes is that they are too short. I would have preferred having shorter, longer episodes, or fewer, longer episodes.
Exactly,
rather
I
than
agree.
9 episodes that are 30-ish minutes long. I feel like they go by way too fast.
They're a little too short. They're great. They're all amazing
We're just
episodes.
complaining.
But I think that this series is definitely going to benefit with a binge. I feel like this series is extremely bingeable, and I'm going to very much enjoy doing that.
I agree. But no, I loved the episode regardless. It is the Halloween episode that we've been, seeing since the trailers started premiering. And I love a Halloween episode in anything. So this was awesome.
We do love a holiday episode. It's always nice when your favorite shows have holiday episodes that you can kind of reapproach whenever that holiday comes around. And this is Valentine's Day weekend.
It is. Yeah.
And so we have the most romantical Marvel show pairing as of yet, because we were holding out for Stucky, but that didn't happen. So,
Well, obviously spoilers going forward, but I will say that watching the episode, if you haven't watched it already, make sure you watch the recap, because the recap they throw in the what's his name?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, his version of Pietro from Age of Ultron. So that was a really nice surprise, and I think it's Marvel's not so subtle way of giving a clear message, showing him in the same episode that they're showing Evan Peters Pietro.
I do want to say that Evan Peters, I wasn't sure about how it was going to work with WandaVision, and I do want to say that I wasn't very excited for him.
I know you weren't.
Because I've been really wanting Aaron Taylor Johnson to come back, but I do think he was the MVP of this episode.
I am an Evan Peters stan ever since American Horror Story. I love Evan Peters. I think he's so awesome, and he does a great job as the cool hip cool uncle that shows up into town and sleeps on the couch. The opening, by the way, for this is so the last episode was 80s. And then I guess this one it's supposed to be 90s, but they're taking a definite cue off of Malcolm in the Middle in their opening theme, and that show started in 2000. So I think we skipped to the 90s, but the opening is Malcolm in the Middle. I loved it. Used to love that show growing up.
I suspect that this might be the latest season of American Horror Story.
It could be. You know what? We might have a twofer.
Because everything is turning out to be pretty nightmarish, And then we have Evan Peters shows up, Right now, I am waiting for, oh gosh, what's her name?
Oh, if Sarah Paulson shows up, then Sarah Paulson could be the alternate Agnes. I can see her.
Oh my gosh, what if she just comes in? I would love it. And everybody's like, wait, is this an American Horror Story?
Theory. This show is blending with American Horror Story. It is American Horror Story.
American Horror Story is within the Marvel Universe. So Sarah Paulson as the Supreme is going to come in and challenge Wanda. So I loved the costumes. I loved the Malcolm in the Middle intro. It might be 2000s, but it does feel very 90s.
Yeah. It's right on that brink anyway.
And I think that the kids are doing really well in terms of acting.
I like the kids.
I didn't get much from them in the last episode, and in this episode, especially with Tommy, we get a lot, and we get a little bit more from Billy.
Yeah.
And the Pietro.
I love the stuff we got from Billy, though. The stuff that we do get from Billy in this episode, I'm all about it.
I think they're more leaning into Billy's character.
As a couple of queers, I have my eye on the queer character of this series, and I'm watching Billy like a hawk.
Exactly.
Just to see how his power is going to develop and all that.
Because I know Wiccan is bigger in terms of like gets more page time
Yeah.
than Speed does in the comics.
Yeah.
But they've been leading with Speed, so I'm not sure if it's because they have Quicksilver, because they have this Pietro imposter. Maybe that's why they've been leading a little bit more with Tommy instead of Billy. But I'm hoping it's not because they want to have Wiccan be smaller because of his possible, I guess.
I don't
gay
think so. I
storyline.
don't think so. I think he arguably had a bigger role in this than his brother even did.
I think that you would lose that
I
argument.
know, because his powers flourished more towards the end of the episode, and we really got to see like he was the driving force between this big climax of the episode. So let's back it up a little bit. So yeah, both boys are kind of getting their powers. We've got everybody waking up this morning, and Elizabeth or Wanda and Vision both come down dressed as their superhero. Dressed in their superhero costumes
And their comics
yes,
costumes.
They're classic superhero costumes from the comics, and they're all supposed to go like trick or treating. But Vision is starting to step out now. If you remember from the last episode, Vision and Wanda had a big blow up where
they floated.
Vision pretty much called her out and was like, "Hey, I know you're like changing everything every night when we go to sleep. You're changing the house. You're changing the set. You're like controlling everybody. Like, what is going on here?" And then this episode, he is not really playing along anymore.
Well, he is playing along to the extent that he's like
playing along to like
he's trying to play Wanda, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go be part of the
keeping secrets." Yes,
the watch or whatever. And she's like, "That's not what you're supposed to." And then she corrects herself.
About to be like, yeah, because
she's like, I already gave you the script for this episode, and obviously you didn't do your homework.
Elizabeth Olsen was like, I didn't get the rewrite here. But so he takes off. He says he's going to do some like neighborhood watch or something like that. And Pietro, that name is going to get me. Pietro steps in and says, "Hey, like I'll go trick or treating with you and the kids. Let Vision go and do his own thing." I think Pietro's got. He's up to something in this. He's up to something. So Vision goes out to try to figure out like kind of what's going on. He's not really doing neighborhood watch. He's kind of just going and trying to figure out what this world is, what the hex is that Wanda has created.
Yeah, exploring what's going on the edges of what he knows as the reality.
Yeah, so Wanda kind of has a sense that Vision is not following along, but she also has this sense that Pietro is not who he seems to be because she's constantly quizzing him throughout this episode. Like, do you remember in the orphanage there was a kid who was doing this? What was that kid's name? The kid with the skin thing? Or like she's asking him a bunch of different questions, and he even says straight up, "Be like, you're testing me." And yes, she is testing him.
And they both have a kind of a back and forth, her and this imposter Pietro.
Yeah.
And I do want to say imposter Pietro because I mean he is an imposter Pietro. But they have a back and forth where they're both questioning each other. Like he's like, "So how did you do it? Where did you put the kids during this? Were they all asleep?"
Definitely fishing for information.
Yeah,
from Wanda. I almost wonder like, did Hayward send this Pietro into the hex?
No.
Do you think? You don't think?
I don't think Hayward is smart enough for something like that.
But he's got something going on his own end. He's up to something too, so he could have gotten this Pietro and sent him in, because where are the Avengers? I think you asked this question while we were watching. Isn't this a job for an Avenger to like kind of go in and figure this out? Where are any of the Avengers?
I mean, that's what they're there for. Yeah. You have these team of superheroes to deal with superhero Avenger level crises. Crises. And nobody's there. So I've been rewatching all of the Marvel movies. She has a closer relationship with Hawkeye. Why does it sound like I'm saying hot guy?
No, you were saying hot guy. Yes.
Hawkeye. And I'm just curious as to why nobody like would reach out to him or somebody else.
Yeah.
To go and try to connect with her, because like if anybody else is going to be on the same level in terms of, or a similar level in terms of trauma and what's happened to her, I think it would be another Avenger.
Well, I think that Hayward is because we've already seen that he's willing to take Wanda out. He's willing to kill her. I think he's kind of blocking any information from kind of getting out about this, and he's not letting the Avengers in. He's not telling them what's going on,
Well, he's afraid because he stole Vision's body I'm making this presupposition that he stole Vision's body underneath the Avengers' noses, because I don't think that they would have just given his body over. And when they kind of showed Vision in the place, it looked like it was a lab where they were doing experiments on Vision's body. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think he wants a weapon, and I think that's why he's so hyper focused on Vision. And we even see that in this episode where when Darcy does her Willow Rosenberg thing and hacks into the computer, we get into his little sonar system
Yeah.
where he's able to track all of the live people within the hex, which nobody knew that he was doing.
Let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about some of the hex, like what's going on inside of the hex, because every time we get questions answered, we get new questions that come up, and some of the questions that have been answered is like kind of what is happening with these people in the hex, right? And it appears that the people that are closer to the edge of town, closer to the edge of this hex,
Weren't moving.
they're like they're not moving. They're there. They're inside the body, but they are more like props, like stage props, rather than.
It's like a limit of Wanda's control. We're starting to see that kind of limit, and we're starting to see that what not Shield, Sword is focused in on is the decay signature of Vision's vibranium body. So that's definitely what they're after.
Because they're tracking Vision as well. Vision, as he kind of ventures closer to the edge of town and closer to the edge of this hex, he's seeing all these people who are not moving. They're all dressed for the part, but they're just set decorations. They are not any sort of supporting character. There's even at one point there's a woman kind of stuck in a sort of like
Loop.
motion. It's
It's a loop.
What is it on Instagram? It's like a boomerang where she's hanging a Halloween decoration up and going back and forth, but you see like she's in there. You see the emotion, and she's got a tear coming down, like a single tear. But the people that are closest to the edge of this hex are not moving at all. Like these people don't have any sort of movement. But what we did see close to the edge of this hex, and that Vision, because he ends up like shedding his comic Vision costume, and he flies up and looks around the town, and he sees Agnes's car close to the edge of town, and he flies down, and he confronts her, and she's there in kind of a trance, and she's also sort of mimicking these people who are not. They don't have any movement, so she's gone up to like, what is it, Ellis Avenue? And you're not supposed to go beyond like Ellis Avenue, I think. Right? I think it's Ellis Avenue. But she's there, and she's kind of in a trance, and she's dressed as a witch right now. Also, I think that's
She looks fabulous.
Yeah.
But
and he has to. She's just in this trance, and he does the same thing that he did with the character from the last episode. He kind of brings them back into their own body for a second, and she's basically like, "You have to help. Your Vision. You're part of the Avengers. You have to help. You have to help. There's something going on, like what Wanda's doing. Blah 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 blah." And Vision doesn't even know who the Avengers are.
Well,
You're like really spaced out. Did you get anything I just?
No,
said?
I got all of it. But I do want to say it's crazy that Vision doesn't know who the Avengers are when his actual programming comes from Tony Stark. It's weird. It's weird to me. But I liked that she did that, and then she confronted him for the fact that he is dead. And she's like, "No, you're dead." And she's like, "Are we dead? Am I dead?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, why?" He's like, "Because you're dead." And he's like,
"What?" It's interesting because Vision has, because Wanda is pretty much giving Vision his programming at this point now, right? So she has given him a selective memory where he doesn't remember Avengers, he doesn't remember dying, he doesn't remember any of that. He only remembers the memories that she is allowing him to remember.
Well, it's really everything from, because he hasn't remembered anything from before WandaVision.
Yes.
And so he's remembering everything from the start of WandaVision. Mm-hmm. But what we have here is we're starting to kind of see Wanda's power limits, because Vision decides, well, I'm going to leave.
Yeah. And
he starts to walk outside just like Wanda was walking outside. Kind of an homage to her episode, what was that, episode 5, episode 4?
I don't remember when we all remember when she
when she walked out. But this time, when he walks out, unlike Monica Rambeau, unlike Wanda herself, he starts deteriorating
and falling apart like super fast.
because he is right
He's a
now.
corpse.
Yeah, he's being puppeted by her.
Yeah.
He's nothing without Wanda right now, which gets me to a slight theory. I am theorizing that Wanda is going to give him back the stone. Because, I mean, her powers, a lot of her powers within the Marvel Cinematic Universe come from the Infinity Stone, the Mind Stone, and I think that she is going to restore the Mind Stone. She broke the Mind Stone, and I think that Mind Stone that she broke, she's going to restore it in Vision before the end of WandaVision.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's we've got a lot going on here, and even Wanda. Like, do you believe that? Because a little bit before this, Wanda's having a conversation with Pietro, and he's asking her how she did all of this, and he's like, listen, I'm not your husband. You can tell me the truth, which is already kind of like a red flag because you should be able to tell your husband the truth, right? So I think that was a very pointed piece of dialogue there. But her response is like, I don't know how I'm doing all of this. Is it messed up? Is it messed up that I'm doing it?
It was a weird moment because he's confronting her.
Yeah.
We're finally getting her within the world, really talking about it in a angry way.
She's not being she's being provoked, but in a more like stealthy way.
Yeah, because it's like you open up to people who are close to you, and her brother's supposed to be close to her, and then she looks at him, and then he's dead.
Oh, that she has that brief moment where, like, when she saw Vision, and for a brief moment, she sees a dead body, which is also kind of strange.
But I think the Pietro imposter is playing with her.
I think it is. It is some sort of imposter. I don't know. But...
So I've heard people. I should have done a little bit more research on Nightmare, but I've heard a lot of people talk about him possibly being Nightmare.
It's something,
and then Mephisto.
Like that. There's something going on here. I do think that I don't know. So do we believe that she really doesn't know how she's doing all of this, or is like how is that happening? I don't know. I don't know if she's holding back information still, or if that was a moment of genuine honesty.
Well, I think it was a moment of genuine honesty, and I think she was honest at the end of the last episode when she was telling Vision, I don't know how this is happening. I'm not controlling everything in here. Yeah. She's like, do you think I make people walk their dogs and stuff like that? Which obviously she doesn't, because everybody who's outside of her field of influence isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, because she's not able to really do that. But I think that there's another party at play. I think it's mostly Wanda, but there's definitely another party at play.
For sure. And I think we get some of that in these little commercials that we have, because this one we have it's like a yogurt commercial or something.
It's a Yo Magic commercial. It's oh my gosh, it was like a
snack for survivors.
It was like for Survivor. It gave me Danonino commercial, or like a Go-Gurt kind of commercial from the 90s.
Yeah.
Like watching Nickelodeon and you get that. I think it was a really great commercial.
So as Tommy kind of starts getting his powers throughout the episode, we see Tommy using his powers like throughout the entire episode, and then at the end, Billy starts. We see him start using his powers, and he, as Vision is leaving, Billy can hear Vision and his screams for help, and he can kind of like sense where Vision is, and he's the one who alerts Wanda to Vision leaving the Hex, and Wanda just.
Which is interesting because why wouldn't Wanda have felt that too? So
I mean, if Wanda created Billy and Tommy, she must have created them as an extension of herself. So maybe that is like an alarm that she's created for herself.
Maybe
if something happens like that, if Vision were to decide to leave as he is, and she goes full balls to the wall. You know, she ramps up her powers, and it is this massive moment of
expansion.
She expands the Hex. She stands forward. Like Pietro tries to come in and like stop her or something like that. He tries to get her attention to keep her from doing something, which is why I think that he's there for some sort of purpose like that, to keep her from doing things like this. And she like uses her power and blasts him off, and she just her eyes go red and she expands the whole Hex. And it's not just expanding it just a little bit, like she expands it to bring Vision back in, because Vision's dying on the outside of this Hex, and as she does that, she also like swallows up
the sword compound
the sword
thing.
compound and their little makeshift base that they set up outside of the Hex, and everybody turns into clowns, and it becomes like a carnival, and it's just like this massive show of power that we get from Wanda, and it's so exciting to watch. And it also just proves again that she's just dangerous, you know.
Well, and then everything on the outside, because we've mostly avoided stuff on the outside, but everything on the outside, the trio, I really do enjoy Agent Woo, Darcy, and Monica together. I think I really enjoy them together. And Monica and Agent Woo decide, hey, we're gonna go get help, and Darcy says, I'm gonna stay and really hack into this program. But
and that comes right after basically Hayward fired everybody, fired this.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, and they had really nice one-liners. Because Darcy was like, here, I got it. Sorry, that's funny coming from the guy who almost got murdered by his own murder squad, and then he's like, oh, who's the sassy best friend? Back at them, like of the trio. I really liked that. Well, he's definitely setting himself up to be the evil, I think,
but
bad guy.
He's like a pseudo villain. I think he's more of a puppet than an actual villain. He's a puppet to some other big bad that we've got coming into play here.
I don't think you have to be a puppet. I think he can just be evil on his own. I think that he had his own agenda for what he's doing with Vision and stuff like that. So, but I mean, that might get explored a little bit more. And then Darcy gets caught up into the new Hex expansion, but we didn't actually see what's going to happen with her.
We don't see what happened to her, but basically she's in the Hex now. Monica and Jimmy, are they in the Hex? I don't remember, because they were driving away from it, right? I don't know. I really like this trio. I like the super agent stealthy, you know.
It's kind of Scooby Gang.
Yeah, Scooby Gang that they have going on.
Wrapping it up, I want to say that I theorized that Pietro was going to come back, and he came back. So right now I'm saying I don't think Pietro is who we think he is. I don't think he is the Quicksilver we know from the Fox franchise. Yeah. But I do think that's a nice wink at Pietro from the Fox franchise. I think he's an imposter. And I think that Vision is going to get his stone restored. And what else? Yeah, I think those are my two big theories. And I really want Dottie to come back. Hopefully she can.
Dottie hadn't been in it for a little bit, so I don't know. So. Yeah, I definitely think going forward, Pietro is he's some sort of like infiltrator. Just kind of he's like Monica. Monica was there to infiltrate. I think Pietro is there to infiltrate as well, just in a different way with different motives. Whereas Monica's trying to help Wanda, and she very much wants to go back into the Hex to help her and like bring her to her senses, because even Pietro says earlier that there's a line about Pietro mentioning that Wanda hasn't like dealt with her trauma. I think Monica wants to help Wanda deal with her trauma. Meanwhile, Pietro is like poking the bear a little bit, and there's a reason why. So I guess we'll figure that out going forward.
Oh my gosh, I just realized we didn't even talk about the fact that they got the studies back from Monica saying that her physiology is altered.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is this her origin story?
because Monica's been into the Hex twice, and her cells and everything are changing. Like her
was it twice? I thought it was once.
Is it once? They mentioned twice like that her DNA's been changed. Oh, because maybe she's blipped out.
Oh no, because she went in and out.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
I think it's because in and out. Yeah.
And so her cells are changing and stuff like that. We also didn't mention that all of a sudden, like Vision mentions the last episode that there's no kids in anywhere except for their own kids, and now there's kids everywhere.
Hey, Wanda takes notes.
She does, and she didn't even change the house in this episode. She kept the same house. She's
was it the same house?
Yeah, she's like, I'm not going to change the house this episode. The interior's different.
Okay.
But when they do the opening theme on the outside of the house is the same.
Look at her taking notes. See?
She's like notes from production and the studio.
I saw a meme on Twitter saying like the most powerful showrunners, and I was like Shonda Rhimes.
It's like Shonda Rhimes. I don't know, two others, and then Wanda.
It was like Shonda Rhimes, Ryan Murphy, one other, and then like Wanda.
It's very funny. But, no, very much enjoyed this episode. I just want them to be a little bit longer, so we've got 3 more to go. I'm super excited for them, and
yeah, me too.
Alrighty, well, that concludes our coverage of episode 6 of
WandaVision. Roll credits. Adios.
Adios.
Adios, gentle viewers.